Hello, welcome to today's Museum Moment. This is Ellie Gettinger. I'm the Education Director at Jewish Museum Milwaukee. I hope everyone's doing well on this lovely day. So this week we're looking at food. And on Tuesday we talked about kashrut and what it means to keep kosher. Today we're going to dig into some of the evolution of what some early kind of commercial businesses, especially around the realm of food. So we're talking peddlers, we're talking grocers. Throw your names up in the comments. Tell me that you're here. Let me know if any of your parents, grandparents were peddlers or grocers and how that worked. I'd love to hear from you. And we'll get started. So right now we're in this kind of unconventional, incredibly strange time where grocery stores are so key to our survival, and that we're constantly in this place, I don't know about you, but thinking about when we're going to get food, how we're going to get food, who's getting the food, is the food coming to us, are we going to pick it up? And in researching this topic, I felt like that a lot of those same questions existed 100 years ago, but even more so, I was struck by how the people who were providing the food, what were the ways in which they took action to protect themselves, to make sure that they could make a living wage and to make sure that they were part of a broader structure. So as we jump in to our images today, let's keep in mind this sense that the majority of the people that we're talking about are immigrants or children of immigrants, and that they are in this new country where they're working to figure out what they can do. This story about peddlers and grocers is central to the story that we tell in the museum. It is one of the centerpieces of our Earning a Living section is this Peddlers Cart. This Peddlers Cart is a reproduction from the exhibit at the Milwaukee Public Museum in the 1990s. But really it gives us this sense of the sorts of things that peddlers might have been selling, how they might have been trading. And it does become this kind of way of having a conversation about this evolution of Jewish life and development. Behind this, and you can see it in small form right in this picture, is this picture of Louis Weinstein, who is considered the last peddler in Milwaukee. He's actually Marlon Brick's grandfather, I think, for those of you who are connected to Congregation Beth Israel Ner Tamid and you know Marlon. But this is a picture of Louis Weinstein at the end of the line in terms of peddling in the 1950s, going out, and this is actually Juneau Avenue in Milwaukee, with his horse and wagon and his sales route. And it's just one of these pictures that I think is so iconic in some way, that you get the 57 Chevys and Mr. Weinstein and his horse and what that looks like. Has been kind of a great way of kind of exploring the beginning of this and how this kind of rotates out as there are more and more stores open and there's more and more kind of general food processing, and you don't have the same sense that you need this door-to-door salesman coming to you. It is really one of my favorite pictures. By the way, for those of you who are really into Milwaukee history, this is Juneau Avenue right as you're kind of going past the Pfizer Forum at this point. So it looks totally different today. My story about peddling really centers on this guy, Louis Goldberg. Now, all of you here are like, Louis Goldberg, who's Louis Goldberg? Louis Goldberg, literally there were immigrants who were asked in their citizenship test, who is the president? And their response was Louis Goldberg. He was the president of the Independent Fruit Peddlers Union from 1917 until 1947. And he brought this organization into its kind of height, and he took it and he shepherded it at this early point when you have this kind of massive group of independent merchants who are trying to figure out how they can best coordinate their work with the wholesalers and suppliers that they're working with. How do you ensure that you're getting the best price? How do you ensure that you have protections? And then also, as you get older and older, how do you ensure that you have some sort of social safety net? And so this group of peddlers, people who are going out like Louis Goldberg himself, he would wake up at 3:30 in the morning to pick up He would wake up at 3:30 in the morning to pick up potatoes and apples at the Lake Michigan. And then he would go on a route that would take people, go all through the city, and sometimes as far away as Holy Hill or Heartland, Cedarburg. And he would take these routes. He would sometimes trade for chickens out in the country. He would trade for scrap metal. And one of the things that he kept kosher, so there were some of his vendors that would actually keep kosher, keep separate utensils and plates and things for him, and serving pieces. So that to me is amazing, that you're so beloved as a vendor, as a peddler, that you actually have your customers who are providing food for you. So he organizes the Fruit Peddlers Union. Let's go to that next picture. And yes, Jenny Chudnow Houston, that is your great-grandfather. He had, I think, 6 children, and one of them was B. Chudnow. And I thought that was such an interesting kind of bridge to a Milwaukee that I know as well. These are 2 pictures of some of the work of the Independent Fruit Peddlers Union. It was later called the Fruit Distributors Union. And they opened up later to people, anybody kind of in the food service industry, anybody in food sales. But you can see at their height, it had over 146 members. They created a credit union right before the Depression. One of the big challenges that they had to face is that the people, especially in the early days of this business in the 19-teens, would come out every winter after, a layoff of fruit peddling, particularly, and they'd have to put some sort of massive outlay of money into their supply in order to get their business restarted. But these were not people who had $100 to say, go buy fruits and veggies, until they'd also already sold those fruits and veggies. So they figured out a way of putting together this union, this credit union, where they would supply very low interest loans to their members so that they could have that kind of outlay of money at the beginning, and then they would be paid back. And supposedly, according to the article I read, that the loss on investment in that was negligible, that this was a very safe investment once you had people up and moving in this way. They had picnics, they had gala balls. The picnics sound like a riot. Like literally they would have horses, all of their horses at the front. Everyone would take their wagons and they would go through the streets, and it was, a big, big deal. By 1962, in one of the articles that I read from the Wisconsin Jewish Chronicle was written, already the picnics have become a much smaller deal. And by 1980, when a lot of this other information is from, there is nothing kind of remaining of this. There is this kind of evolution from peddling, from being out into the community, to groceries. And these are 2 pictures of some early grocery stores in Milwaukee. The one I'm going to talk about more is the Trzcinski Grocery, which is on the left, I think. I'm bad at my left and my right. And it was started by the 2 people standing in the back, Max and Mary. And again, I think the thing that really strikes me here is the long hours that they faced. That the entire family was involved. Supposedly, according to Sam, who's the little boy, one of the little boys in front, his father would wake up at 4 a.m. and he would be at work in the grocery until midnight. They moved this grocery and they built this grocery. It was one of the last Jewish grocers in town. Sam at one point says that there were 248 Jewish grocers in Milwaukee, which is amazing to me. And the other thing that I was interested in the Trzcinski Grocery in particular is that they were observant. And so they were closed from sundown on Friday night to sundown on Saturday. But they didn't want to close off to their customers. So often they would leave their door open. People would come in and take and then pay after Shabbat. Similarly, they would leave their back door open. And if you needed something in the middle of the night, you could just go in and get it and then come back and pay the next day. The ultimate honor system. This was a grocery store before you had kind of mass production, these 1913, 1910. And mostly what they would be selling is things in bulk. So you would get, in fact, he says bulk matches, bulk olives. It's hard to imagine like a big bucket full of matches and olives. And the person would provide and box your order, and then you would pick it up. I think of it as very early curbside, or maybe we were returning to that today. Again, these groups love to be together and to have these conversations. And so this is the Grocers Banquet of 1946 at the OKUV Lodge at 12th and North. And sometimes there were hundreds of people. They also had picnics and all sorts of social events. So this other picture that you see of these baskets and this lady is from the, sorry, this isn't the Independent Fruit Peddlers Union, but from the Grocers picnic that would happen every summer as well. So in thinking about this as a bygone era, as a part of Milwaukee that we don't really see anymore, we live in this world where getting our food is anonymous. The people who provide our food, it's anonymous, that it's such a different landscape. And I think one of the things that I like in terms of building that bridge from today to yesterday is just to think about the supply chain. What's missing? Who are the people that we aren't recognizing, that we don't see? Who are the people that are like Louis Goldberg, who are picking up, meeting the manufacturers or meeting the wholesalers at 3:30 in the morning and making sure the food is getting to us in some sort of efficient way? And who are the people like Max and Mary Trushinsky who are making sure their doors are open? Tomorrow, we're going to be talking about Henry's salad dressing, which is a pretty awesome story that ties in philanthropy. I believe there's a ping pong table and some very interesting sales techniques in the early parts. So join me again tomorrow at 2:00 if you've liked these. Oh, and I have a correction on the fly. Thank you, Jenny Chudnow. 8 children. Louis Goldberg had 8 children. So I'm so happy that we were able to share that part of the story as well. And I'll see you tomorrow, hopefully at 2. If you've enjoyed this museum moment or any others, please feel free to drop by jewishmuseummilwaukee.org and leave us a little donation. Tell us what you think. Thanks very much and have a great day.